I didn't watch Space Jam 2, but I've heard that that one's a pretty big turd. The one
Yeah,
with
plus like Michael Jordan was beloved by everybody, and LeBron James is somewhat like polarizing. Like people, I think there's young people love LeBron James, and the older people are like, we saw Michael Jordan, so he's really not that great. So, and plus, like, there's just a lot of haters out there, like who just see this guy doing well, and they're like, screw him, I hate him. I used to be like that with Kobe Bryant, just because he always murdered my basketball team. He dissected us so many times. He knocked us out of the playoffs so many times. Like I was a Rockets fan. I still am. But man, Kobe, he did that to every team in the league though. He was just that good. So after he retired, I was like, I love Kobe Bryant. But while he was playing, I hated on him. But after he retired, I was like, man, this guy's awesome. He had such an amazing career. And then he passed away, and I was like shocked. I was blown away by that.
oh right, the whole helicopter
Yeah, that was
crash.
nuts. Like I think that shook me for like 4 or 5 days. I was like, I can't believe Kobe Bryant's not on this planet anymore. That's wild.
That's a topic. Like, what celebrity deaths like do you think of like kind of shaking you
Chadwick
the
Boseman.
most?
Chadwick Boseman.
That
That
one
one
was
recently.
surprising, just because he kept
Yeah,
his illness like hidden, and it was like
exactly.
he's
It
so
felt
young.
like it just came out of nowhere. I was expecting to see him in Black Panther too.
Yeah, yeah.
We had just seen him in Endgame. That was nuts.
I feel like it's been. I mean, that one did surprise me. I feel like the one that rocked me the most
Mhm.
was when I was in high school. Was when Owen Hart died
Oh
in his
yeah,
accident, and I remember that.
yeah.
And I was so into wrestling at that time that that one just shocked the hell out of me.
Did
I
you
was
actually
like,
see it on TV or something? Like,
no, because it was on a pay per view. So and
okay.
I didn't actually see that show.
I used to be a huge Bret Hart fan, and like they had the Hart Foundation and all that stuff. So Owen Hart was a part of that, and yeah, I was like, I always cheered for him. And that was crazy, and the way it happened, like during a pay per view event, falling from the rafters, like that is a shocker. That yeah, I mean, did they carry on with the event after that, or did they just cancel it?
I I think they did finish the event. They like took him out on a stretcher and like because I don't even know the detail. Like I don't know if he died just like straight away on impact or if maybe he was alive for a few minutes after. I'm not quite sure,
Right.
but yeah, I think they did like finish the show. But the energy in that building just had to be in total shock.
Yeah. And another one for wrestlers was this wasn't like sad. Like this was sad in a different way. Chris Benoit.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that
I
was
watched him a
very
lot.
shocking.
Yeah, he was. I think he was like in his prime during that prime age of wrestling too. So I think he got a lot of exposure. I saw him. I watched him, and I, I mean, he just snapped, dude. Like that's nuts. Like I don't know. People say it was like the drugs, like the performance enhancing drugs and other stuff that he was on.
Well, I mean, we'll never know, but I think a lot of it had to do with CTE because
Oh right,
they did eventually do like a examination of his brain, and
right.
they were like, yeah, this is like an 85-year-old with dementia brain,
I think I heard about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. And that happens to a lot of football players too. Like they have such bad CTE. Like some of them commit suicide after retirement.
I've heard that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that seems to be a common thing for whatever reason with people that got to CTE really bad. Is like they'll
yeah,
commit suicide. Some of them will possibly try to go after somebody else.
yeah,
Very strange.
yeah. Yeah,
But
those are some crazy ones, man.
I remember the Benoit one. I was still into wrestling enough that I would frequently like read like the dirt sheets on the internet, like rumors and stuff.
Hmm.
And I actually remember that one vividly because I remember reading that story before it was ever announced, like on television or like widely. So I think I just happened to be on a site that like got the
They got
news, like,
that first before it was even aired?
yeah, I read it like, because I believe it happened on like a weekend. So like I read it on like a Sunday night or something. And then
Oh,
like I because I heard like even a lot of wrestlers like talk about it after the fact, and a lot of them didn't even hear about it until like the following Monday. Which
yeah.
I remember they turned that Raw because they didn't know the details yet, was just a tribute show to him. And then like the very next day, they finally found out that, oh, this wasn't an accident. Like he killed him, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's the other thing is, like, when I read the news, they didn't know at that time that he had actually killed them. So it just said like Benoit and his family found dead. So
Yeah.
honestly, my first thought was, oh, there was like a gas leak or something, you know, some sort of accident, and they all, you know, because I did,
Yeah.
because it was the furthest thing from my mind, like that there would have been like a, you know, a murder suicide by Chris
With his
Benoit, who was,
kids too.
yeah, and who I was a huge fan of, by the way. I was a huge fan
Yeah.
of his. So yeah, it
Mhm.
was just shocking and sad all the way around. Oh,
Yeah.
actually, AJ, a related story that just happened.
Hmm.
So there was a wrestler. I think his heyday was probably like in the 70s and 80s, and I'm not familiar with this guy at all. But there was a wrestler named Billy Jack Haynes,
Mhm.
and he lives in Portland.
Oh.
He just got arrested for shooting his and murdering his wife, who I guess
Oh,
was like 85 years old, his wife. And like I'm not sure how old he is, but I think he's up there in age too.
gotta be, yeah.
So it's very just surreal and strange, you know, that
Old people are so like my grandparents when I visited them, they would argue about the silliest, stupidest things, but it was like cute arguing.
right.
But then I've also seen videos online where an old 95-year-old man, he was mad about the maintenance workers not getting something done in his apartment, and he shot one. He pulled out his gun and shot one. Didn't kill him, but you know, he tried. And like they just lose a lot of them lose like all rationality when it comes to like, you know, responding to stressful situations. I've seen a lot of people complain about that in retail, like on TikTok and like YouTube. Like their experiences with the older people is like they just don't they almost become children like when something doesn't go their way.
Yeah, especially if they have like hints of like, you know, dementia or something. It
Yeah.
can go really ugly really quick.